Welcome, Frank, to the Biohacker Babes. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, been excited since we bumped into each other in New York. I was like, we got to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was fun. That was so weird and wild and random.
Yeah, I went up just for that. I took a train from DC to New York just to go to that event.
Oh, no way.
Oh,
That's so cool. Yeah. So, for those of you listening, I thought it was going to be like an intimate dinner party. Maybe it shifted many times because there were a lot of people that were in control of that, but it was at Andrew Masanto's house, which is, he's a big biohacker and has lots of money. And yeah, it ended up just being like a lot of people in the industry, and you were there serving ketones, and there was another guy serving up mocktails, and I got like a big bottle of Brian Johnson's olive oil and like some random stuff.
oh,
It was cool.
I
Yeah,
didn't know about the
I
olive
got to
oil.
meet Brian Johnson's doctor, his head doctor, who's now being featured in the Don't Die, and that led to Brian taking our ketone ester side. We're not going to talk too much about that, but he takes that stuff and he did a little video on it on a YouTube blip. So that was nice that he's a customer.
Cool.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
We
Yeah, we
both
both
just
just
watched.
watched it. I finished it last night. Yeah. We'll have to do like a full recap of what we thought. I thought it was
Yeah.
good. But okay, so we are talking about ketones today.
Yes. Yeah.
Woohoo! Now I think our audience is somewhat familiar with like taking exogenous ketone supplements. We've talked about like ketone aid, taking it as a shot. Um, for different metabolic health purposes, brain health, sleep, overall health. But today we're talking about something a little bit different that you have discovered and created for the world,
Yeah.
hard ketones,
Yeah.
which is also really good to talk about right now because yes, so if you're watching on YouTube, Frank is showing us the one of the newest cans, strawberry spritz. So a lot of people are doing dry January right now, myself included. We're 1 week in, and I think a big struggle with people when they try to do a dry January, give up alcohol, because we know as biohackers it's very toxic to the body. They find they want something else, whether it gives them a buzz or just something they can pour into a cocktail glass. And hard ketones has solved both of those issues. So we were talking about this before we hit record. Like, I noticed if I drink one while fasting, I do feel a buzz, and it's a better buzz than alcohol. Like, to be honest, I hate alcohol. It's such a social thing, but like it ruins my sleep. It makes me tired. It makes me my brain foggy. It's like, why do we drink this toxic
And then you
crap?
eat more. You eat more. You actually make
Yes.
poor decisions on food. So you end up eating that pizza late at night. Yeah.
Yeah. And then your blood sugar is all over the place. So, okay. So, alcohol we know is bad. So, hard ketones is a great solution. So, just to jump right in, I want to know, how did you discover this type
Yeah.
of ketone?
Yeah, sure. So just to give some people a little bit of a background, the first company I started is called Ketone Aid, and we sell a ketone ester. This is the KE4, and that's used by most of the Tour de France teams now. It's kind of the default. People use it for sleep, they use it for fasting, just multiple different reasons. And that molecule is an ester. An ester means a bond of two molecules. So it's bonding D-beta hydroxybutyrate to a molecule called R13-butanediol. And this was discovered by Dr. Richard Veach. Looking for the book that I have about him. If you want to take a deep dive, it's called Ketones, the Fourth Fuel. I don't know if you guys put links in your YouTube.
Oh,
Ketones, the
yeah.
Fourth
We'll link
Fuel
to that. I haven't
on
read that.
Amazon. And so he's my wife's godfather. That's how I got into all this. And so these two molecules, they're bound together via an enzyme. And it's important, the binding part, because you could technically buy the ingredients, just pour one of them, two of them into a bucket and mix it up, but it's not the same as an ester bond. So there's this ester bond, and when you consume it, it gets into the blood, and then it separates into D-beta hydroxybutyrate free acid, the ingredient that your body makes naturally when you burn fat. You make ketones, D-beta hydroxybutyric acid. And then the second half is called R13-butanediol. And when you consume that, it goes through the liver and converts to a second round of D-beta hydroxybutyrate, the acid form. So you have like a fast release and a slow release. And I said to Dr. Veach, hey, the ester costs 10 times more than the R13-butanediol. Why not just drink 20% more of that and make up for the difference? And his answer changed everything. His answer was epic. He said, the mice were stumbling. So they gave it to mice and they were
Oh
stumbling.
no.
Like they were noticeably sedated, not moving around and stumbling, couldn't walk the maze. So he was
Oh,
looking for Alzheimer's research and all these, different potential therapeutic benefits. So he basically threw that in the trash. That's
okay.
when I
So
took it out of the trash.
the mice would not pass a DUI
Right.
stop.
Well,
Okay.
they would, if you blow on a meter, it'll say 00 because there's no ethanol in it.
Right. Okay.
But yes,
Mm.
they
So
cannot touch
walking the line.
they cannot walk the line and they cannot touch their nose properly
Okay.
with their little mice noses.
Little mice nose.
Um,
Yeah.
That's funny. Druggy
so
little
yeah, so
mice.
I took it out of the trash and I said, I think humans would like a much less toxic, and we can go into I don't know how deep you want to go into the chemistry, but a much less toxic version of, an alcohol alternative that still gives you a buzz, but far, far less, if at all, toxic. And I sat on it for 2 or 3 years because we were working on the ketone ester, and that stuff used to be $1,000 a gram, and we had to scale it up multiple times, and we were backlogged and sold out for 2 or 3 years, meaning that we would sell and then be sold out, and customers would have to send to other customers their product when there was an emergency. Um,
Wow.
so, finally we had some breathing room where we had enough scale of the ketone ester. I said, hey, I think people will want this. And then that's when I launched the hard ketones. And the first versions, we started really low on the dose amount because, people feel it differently. Um, and it tasted really bad. Like it took us 2 or 3 years to be able to formulate it, to mask it, to make it decent tasting. And the bar is really high because we're competing against mocktails, literally 30 grams of sugar with zero active ingredient. And our stuff has zero sugar. That's one hurdle, pretty huge hurdle. And then it has this 15 to 17 grams of what we call ketone, which is the brand name for R13-butane-diol. Since that's a mouthful, we just call it ketone. And
Mm.
it tastes pretty nasty. So to try to make a 12-ounce drink taste, our goal is to taste not bad because it's all about the buzz. Like tequila doesn't taste good. Um, so our goal is to make it not taste bad. And it was initially pretty bad. And our initial audience was just ketogenic people because they their ability to drink alcohol was just non-existent because they'd go keto. It'd
Yeah.
take 2 weeks to get keto, and then they take one, even if it's the best for you alcohol, let's say some pure vodka or something,
Clean. Yeah.
kicks them out of ketosis, and then they have to start all over again 2 weeks. This
Hmm.
drink keeps them in ketosis, technically raises your blood ketones 1 to 2 millimolars per can, but we don't really talk about that much. And for them, it was just the holy grail. But that audience is tiny compared to the audience of people just trying to get off of alcohol. So for this drink, you don't need to be keto at all. Like you don't even need to know what the word keto means, related to the ketogenic diet. So that's when we've
Yeah.
kind of pivoted. Once we got the taste better, so the bad taste, the keto people were like, "Hey, I don't care. We need something." We got the taste a little bit better, then we can expand to, general population of people that are looking for an alcohol alternative. And yeah, there's the NA beers and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of, these mocktails, 30 grams of sugar. But what's missing is the buzz. Um, and this
Yeah.
hits the spot, and it actually does some other things outside of the buzz. It blocks alcohol withdrawal symptoms and cravings, and it even blocks cravings for itself. So people will say, well, I'm just going to get off of alcohol and just get addicted to this. Well, after you drink 1 or 2 cans of this stuff, there isn't that psychological and chemical craving of, oh, I have to drink another one, like regular ethanol alcohol. It actually stops you, which is, one might argue is a bad business model. You want something
Yeah.
where someone drinks again and again, but that's fine. I'd rather them be healthy and take a longer term approach than, what they'll drink that one night.
Yeah.
And some people also confuse, they look at the price of the drinks and they compare things, 1 can versus 1 can, and they're like, this is crazy. It costs 4 times more. But that is also a fundamental misunderstanding because it's not a 1 can versus 1 can,
Hmm.
analysis. It's a one entire
Yeah.
night or one entire week, uh, or even one entire month. If we can get you off of 10 years of drinking every single night in 30 days, you know, and then get off of our stuff. That's
Yeah,
fine.
I've
Like, get
never
off of
even
our stuff.
thought that the price was a thing. I mean, if
Oh
you
yeah,
think,
if you look at
I
our
mean,
Facebook
in
comments,
Well,
Vegas,
we're a rare
or
category here.
but I mean, but if you are getting off alcohol, like I mean, here in Vegas, if you can get a cocktail for $20, that's like a steal
right? But
Mm.
they're comparing
to other
the
mocktails.
7-Eleven in Vegas will still sell a Pabst Blue Ribbon for a dollar
Yeah.
a can.
Oh,
Like that's
So
what they're
okay.
here in
comparing.
North Carolina, the 30 pack of Coors Light, yeah,
Yeah, that's
will
what they're
cover that.
comparing. They're like,
Got it. Okay.
it's not worth it. It's just it's a shame we haven't. I like this longer form of a podcast so you can really understand what it is. But when you're doing Facebook ads and you're trying to, in a few bullet points, explain what this is, and they see the price, they just get the sticker shock. And I've said to people, would it be better if we diluted it in half and charged half as much? Like maybe we should do that. But then the sticker shock isn't there, but then they find, oh, now I have to drink 4 cans instead of 2 cans to feel it.
Yeah.
And then so it's
Yeah.
a, upfront or later. And we actually over time we started with 10 grams per can. We've actually increased it all the way up to 17 grams. So we've actually
Hmm.
increased it by 70%, the active ingredient, which is costs 50 to 100 times more than ethanol, probably more like 50.
Mm.
And we haven't changed the price. So technically, people are like, when's the price going to come down? Well, we made it 70%
The
stronger
value went
without a
up.
price change. That's a pretty huge, change, but people don't see
Yeah.
that, and that's where information and just taking the time to explain what it is.
Yeah, the education's
Education.
really means a lot. And I would love to go through the chemistry just because I think ketones are so ubiquitous in their use and benefits. I end up talking about ketones for so many reasons with clients for sleep, for
Sure.
exercise, for brain focus, for glucose, even before we get to the alcohol alternatives. So maybe we
Okay.
take a step back
Yeah.
and explain like how do we source this stuff? Of course, our body's naturally making it. We're supporting the exogenous intake of it, but what do we need to know?
Sure. So there's this umbrella category of exogenous ketones where you're consuming something externally that creates ketones. And I like to say that on the low end of the scale, there's MCT oil, which I think is a partial exogenous ketone. Because if you get the
Mm-hmm.
super strong kind, the C8, which I'm not a fan of, which we can go into, 15% of it will convert to beta hydroxybutyrate. But then you've got GI problems. They call it the diarrhea diet because you take even
Disaster
half of a
pants.
teaspoon and it feels like daggers in your stomach. But then people say, well,
Yeah.
over 3 weeks, you can slowly, gradually, you can go up. So yeah, it'll make
Well,
some ketones
stuff.
even after eating cake. But what people don't understand is it's not triggering endogenous production. That's what they misunderstand. They think that it puts them, quote, into ketosis, but the devil's in the details. It's how you define ketosis. So all these companies will say, drink this and you're in ketosis in 30 minutes. The
Hmm.
technical
Mm.
scientific phrase for definition of ketosis is ketones in the blood. But if you were to ask any regular person to define ketosis, they would say your body burning fat to make ketones. So the companies are technically correct by saying you're in ketosis in 30 minutes, but I'm like, no, it doesn't make you burn fat. And for weight loss, we have on our website all the different ways you can use the products and the different products, and we have weight loss and a big red X all the way across. Like there's ways to use it properly, but it will not
Mm-hmm.
make you burn fat. My father-in-law has taken ketone ester for 4 years, and he's as fat as he was 4 years ago. So it,
Mm.
Yeah.
it,
And I have a
it
lot of
won't.
clients taking MCT oil all the time and they're testing their ketones. They're like, I'm not making ketones. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
there's other stuff going on here. This is
yeah.
not the whole picture.
So the body is,
Yeah.
is making the liver is converting and making some ketones, but you're not burning fat. I prefer if you're going to do the oil and get your ratios in regular cheap liquid coconut oil from Carrington Farms. Get a gallon or a liter for $10 on Amazon. That's what I recommend. So the C8, there's other problems with C8 potentially, like the molecule is so small that while it makes BHB, it also might enter into the brain intact. And there have been clinical trials where they spent 20, $40 million for Alzheimer's trying to show efficacy, and it showed none. Dr. Veach said 15 years ago, it's never going to work. And I can send you the video where he talks about oxidative stress and NAD/NADPH ratios, that it's not, there's more to it than just technically seeing BHB in your blood. So there's that. Then the next step is racemic ketone salts. It's where the BHB, the free acid, is bound to a mineral, sodium, potassium, magnesium, and most of them are racemic, which means only half of it is bioavailable. So you might see on a label, oh, 10 grams of this ketone salt, but it's really only 5 grams of BHB. And then the salt load is about 20% of that. So 5 grams is actually 4 grams of BHB. And then on a gram per gram basis versus the ketone ester, it actually raises your blood ketones much less. So it's like 3 grams. So this 10 grams, it seems like a high number, is really more like 3 grams of ketone ester. And then there's other benefits with the ketone ester, which we can go into. Then there's non-racemic ketone salts. So those are better. They call it either the D form or the R form. So you can have either half the amount of load of salt, or you can take twice the amount of ketones with the same salt load. But the problem with these products is that the salt load is huge. So 1, 2, 3 grams of salt. And some people might take it when they enter into a ketogenic diet and they're like, oh, this is great. It helps me get off the keto flu. But what they're missing is it's not the ketones that are getting them off of the keto flu. It's the salt. Because when you enter into a ketogenic diet, you're losing pounds and pounds of water, which has massive amounts of electrolytes. So you need to re-up your electrolytes. Otherwise, you get the keto flu, you feel sick, you feel tired. And they could have just done it with some, salt,
Sea salt,
sea salt, bouillon cubes or whatnot. But they take the ketone salts and they're like, wow, this works. Well, what happens 2 weeks later? 2 weeks later, your body doesn't need that extra salt load, and then people can't put their ring fingers on. Like they can't put their ring on because the excess sodium part kicks in, they get bloated, and then they put the ketone salt on the shelf and say, oh, well, next time I go keto, I'll use that. So, I'll say people think that that's cheaper than the ketone ester. I'm like, it's more expensive, A, because it doesn't work, and you could just use, ketone salts. I mean, I save people more money than people saving a 15%, Geico commercial, saving Geico stuff just by taking more salt. And people say, oh, well, I add more salt to my eggs. I like to say, did you unscrew the salt cap? Like that's the level of salt that you need, like massive, not just a little, sprinkling of salt.
Yeah.
So that's the ketone salt world. All the clinical trials are all done with the ketone ester because the salts don't work. Maybe if you're a motocross racer and you're racing in 100-degree heat and that's salt, the ketones might help deliver some of the salt. Okay, maybe. But for the most part, it doesn't work. And it's not cheaper than the ketone ester on a gram per effective gram basis.
I remember only hearing about the salts for the longest time, and that definitely has fizzled. So it sounds like the research is getting out there.
Yeah. So what they did is they sold it for weight loss, even though these MLM companies tell their sales reps, don't sell it for MLM because, we got class action lawsuits against them. What are they selling it as? Weight loss. And what they do is they sell the ketogenic diet plus ketone salts for weight loss. And I like to say ketogenic diet plus clapping your hands. You can have weight loss. So it's the ketogenic diet, stupid. It's not the salt. And also a lot of these ketone salts, the trick that they do is they add a bunch of caffeine. So they might say only a normal cup of coffee of caffeine. Ketones, even the ketone salts, will drastically multiply caffeine delivery. 2x, 3x. So if you're going to buy those ketone salts, great. Buy the caffeine-free version and you'll see, like, it's the caffeine, stupid. So they trick you by loading it up with caffeine. 90% of their sales are probably the caffeine version. And you're feeling the caffeine. You're bouncing off the walls. And it's a stimulant. It's not like a buy one, get two free. No, it's like taking 3 cups of coffee. So you get this stimulant and you're just going to have to crash elsewhere. And I'm not a fan of caffeine.
I feel like that needs a big old disclaimer. That could be really dangerous for some people.
Well, so
pretty bad.
I had an ultra marathon runner. No, not ultra. She does 3-day races, and she knew that her threshold for caffeine was a certain number. And I warned her about the 2x effect. And she calls me. She's like, I think it's more like a 3 or 4x effect because she had the going to the bathroom and just nausea, stuff that were all caffeine related because of that intake. And I've even had, I met with someone once and it was 3 p.m. and they took some ketones and, he felt it right away and he was drinking a caffeinated drink. I said, hey, what's in there? He said, caffeine. Oh, but I don't feel caffeine. I'm like, yeah, but now you do. The ketones, it's not only a multiplier, it delivered it in a way that wasn't able to get to him at 3 o'clock. So I was like, well, I'd love to take credit for what you're feeling. That's the caffeine that has finally kicked in. So that's
Wow.
exogenous ketones. There's a couple other new ketone esters, which is kind of confusing because it's a different molecule. It's technically an ester, and that gets more confusing. But it's one is C8 bound to R13, but it's only 15-20% bioavailable. So you need 5 times more of it. And that one you have to take with food, otherwise you have GI problems. And that removes 90% of our use cases are empty stomachs. So to have to
Mhm.
take ketones while eating food,
Mm-mm.
just so that one
Yeah.
doesn't work. And they've changed their name and formulation now 3 times in the last 3 years, a couple $1 million of VC funding, and that can confuse people. But all roads lead back to the ketone ester. Um,
Cool.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so that's a
Wow.
so then
Okay.
within this category is this other molecule called R13-butanediol that made the mice stumble. And that's kind of confusing because then people, their mindsets are ketones, 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 energy, energy, endurance, Tour de France, stuff like that. And now I'm like, well, different ketones, drastically different results. So the hard ketones is more for after hours, relaxing, not during the day, not for that bike ride. Um, and so now we have to retrain everyone all over again that ketones can have this, different feeling. And we've helped
Yeah.
people get off of a bottle of wine per night for 1 year, a biohacking nurse for 1 year. She took 2 cans of our stuff per night. And then 30 days later, she stopped ordering. I'm like, hey, is it, what's going on? Did you go back? She's like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't need it anymore. I'm like, did you go back to wine? She's like, no, I just went to water. And I'm like, why are you apologizing? That's like the best use case I can now,
Wow.
Yeah,
talk
that's
about.
such a
She
win.
That's a
went
great
off of it.
testimonial.
She
Yeah.
went cold turkey straight off of regular alcohol to this.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
so back to the chemistry, you wanted to talk about like how R13-butane breaks down.
I also want
So,
to know where they come from.
well, it's naturally produced through an enzymatic process. So it can be made enzymatically, kind of like making beer, actually. Like beer is sugar and enzymes, and it
Hmm.
ferments to make this. Um, so regular ethanol is a molecule that's in all beer, vodka, wine. People think that, oh, my drunkenness is different with whiskey versus wine.
So
Maybe, but the
ethanol.
core ingredient is ethanol. The same thing people put in their gasolines to help make the cars more efficient. So that's ethanol. Ethanol converts in the liver to acetaldehyde. And that is the toxic ingredient that people have. Uh, they're addicted to that. Some people, one sip of alcohol and the acetaldehyde hits and they just, can't stop themselves. The acetaldehyde then, um, I'm not a doctor and a scientist. So I'm just an average guy. I'm a real estate agent that got dragged into this 7 years ago. So this is just 7, 8 years of, a rapid course in chemistry. So acetaldehyde converts to acetic acid, which goes into the brain, and that is also what the brain craves. And this is why people when they drink alcohol, they think that the addiction is the buzz. It's not the buzz, because then people who are addicted to alcohol, in a snap of the finger, could take weed, THC, have their buzz, and not have cravings. But the acetic acid craving is still there. So um, this molecule is twice the size, the number of carbons. Instead of 2 carbons, it's a 4 carbon version, similar to ethanol, but it's a 4 carbon version. But when it converts, instead of converting to acetaldehyde, it does convert to an aldehyde temporarily, but it's a much less toxic aldehyde that the body can't really consume, can't really use as much, kind of like these erythritol sugar alcohols that your body can't use them. So they taste sweet, but you can't really use it. So it's a 4 carbon version. And then when it converts to beta hydroxybutyrate, an actual, positive. So I like to say that the drink isn't, I don't call it a healthy alcohol alternative. I call it healthier. It's exponentially healthier than ethanol, but I still wouldn't give it to my kids. Like we
Mm.
do say 21 and over. So
Okay.
it's far, far less toxic. You feel after one or two that you don't have that visceral craving for another. It blocks regular alcohol craving. So even if you don't feel the buzz, so about 80% of people feel the buzz, and we'll talk about who doesn't. But those with a high tolerance for regular alcohol, they're probably not going to feel the buzz from two or three. But then the secondary benefit kicks in, which is blocking the cravings for regular alcohol. So as long as
Yeah.
they're have their expectations, set, um, it'll block their regular cravings, and it also blocks people's cravings for itself, but also blocks cravings for food. So if people take this after, coming home 5, 6 p.m. after work, and then they're just like, you know what, I skipped dinner. Like they're doing reverse intermittent fasting, eating breakfast, skipping dinner, and they're like, well, I just saved 800 calories, even though the can might have 100 calories each. I just saved 800 calories from not, having dinner. Um, so,
Yeah.
so another topic we can talk about is, other alcohol alternatives that are out there that still have a buzz. So
That
first of
was
all,
going to
there's
be
some,
my next question.
yeah.
So curious. Yeah.
So there's functional beverages you'll see everywhere that have L-theanine, ashwagandha, lip balm, and they'll list a couple mushrooms. Only one of those ingredients does anything, and it's the L-theanine. L-theanine is great. If you want a low cost, first line of attack thing to try, L-theanine supplements that we don't sell are super cheap. L-theanine is the type of molecule, if you're stressed, but there's no particular reason for you to be stressed that day, you just know, like, hey, there's no real reason. Why am I stressed? There's something chemicals happening in your body. You take a couple pills of that, it's noticeable within a half an hour. It's just like, that's gone. Like I can now manage, my day. L-theanine works instantly. Ashwagandha, these drinks will all put ashwagandha as like the lead thing. And one company put it in their drink. And I said, ashwagandha doesn't work for 30 days. He goes, yeah, but the SEO, people are searching for ashwagandha. So we put the product in there for search engine reasons.
Marketing.
And I'm just like, really? Like
Wow.
Terrible.
you sleep at night with that? Like that companies
Wow.
will do that. So all the research, 20, 50 clinical trials are all 30-day use. Now, anecdotally, people say that maybe they feel it. Okay, sure, but
Placebo.
they would love to do a clinical trial to prove that it works in a half an hour, like L-theanine does. The other stuff, lip
Yeah.
balm, mushroom is, I think, all marketing. It doesn't do much. No clinical trial that I've seen actually proves efficacy. So it's all
Yeah.
L-theanine. You can buy
Well,
those
yeah, even
cans,
the
or you can buy the.
mushrooms. We just did like a deep dive mushroom episode, and he said, really, cordyceps is the only mushroom that you will feel within 30 minutes. He said all the other mushrooms, chaga, reishi, etc. He's like, you have to be consistent with it.
Well, the only ingredient that we have a different drink which called snake water. The only mushroom that we
What
put in
is
there
that?
is well, I don't want to go too many tangents because we only have
I
an
think
hour.
Okay,
you
we'll,
said,
we'll come back to it, but
yeah,
it's
I think,
cordyceps.
Yeah,
okay.
we'll talk about that later.
I think you sent me one of those, and my husband, who's addicted to all of your products, I think he drank it before I got to try it.
Well, I'll make sure you get a case. That's basically our anti-caffeine Red Bull replacement, where you can have zero
Oh,
sugar, zero caffeine, but better than caffeine. When people see zero caffeine, what do they say in their head? Doesn't work. Like that's the first,
Yeah,
oh,
they
no
already tell their
caffeine doesn't
brain.
work. So we
yeah.
put better than caffeine, has all these ingredients, and I don't know if we have it in the 12-ounce can, but the concentrate, cordyceps, we have this 10x, super expensive, so much so that my lab was like, this is going to cost more than the entire batch. Like, oh, put it in. We'll figure that out later. And cordyceps
That's awesome.
was
Cool.
in
I
that.
need that for my
Okay.
husband, but I'm gonna have to cover the snake part because he doesn't like snakes. But I
Oh,
bet
really? He's got a snake phobia? That's
Yeah.
funny.
He might have a
Yeah,
panic attack when he sees
I
that.
called it snake water, and our tagline is cure losing. I call it snake water because just all these companies making all these claims, and I don't want to play this claim,
Game.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do I beat all of them? By lying. Just saying, it'll make you run 3 times faster. It'll, just being so absurd that just having fun
Uh,
with it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's
I
why.
like that. You have
That's why.
to. You have
Two
to.
minute mile. Here you go.
Yeah, it says, uh, run a run a marathon in under a mile. Something just
Oh,
nonsense about
something
it.
that doesn't
Well,
make
we
sense.
also learned with cordyceps that Olympians would take it because they were like crush world records. If you have enough cordyceps, you reach that threshold. So, maybe
Well, the
someone will
ketone
do it.
ester,
Yeah.
the ketone ester, Remco, who won the first time in 50 years or maybe forever, where a cyclist won both the road race and the time trial in cycling in the Olympics. He won both of them. And we sponsor the team Quick Step that he's on, and he would travel with two separate duffel bags, both with equal amounts of ketone ester. In case one duffel bag was lost, he'd still have his ketone ester. And
Wow.
you don't do that for marketing or PR purposes because it doesn't get out until I mention it here. But
Hmm.
yeah, so
That's so cool.
and Mark Cavendish broke the world record of most number of Tour de France stage wins, and he was a customer for multiple years before the last 6 months. He finally let people know what he was taking, and that was ketone ester. For what does it do best? Longevity. For older athletes, it's like giving you an extra 4 10, 5 to 10 years. But
What does it not do,
Wow.
really?
No, there are some things. Occasionally, people will ask me, and I'm like, nope, doesn't do that. And I'm confident because I can say it does do this, 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 but it didn't help with that, that one
Yeah.
thing. I
But
can't
blood
think of it.
sugar, endurance, brain focus, sleep. I'm like, those are the
Sleep,
kind of the big things that
yeah,
people are looking for.
yeah.
And I
Taste,
think
it doesn't
with,
work for taste.
yeah, okay. But
No, but
like
we are
a
working on
double win with the alcohol alternative
right.
is you're not getting the depressed sleep from drinking alcohol and you're actually making your sleep better with the
Yeah,
ketones.
so with the hard ketones, I like to
Yeah.
say that one drink will improve your sleep over just a night with just regular water, not, versus alcohol, it blows it away, the sleep. So two drinks, one guy showed me his HRV dropped to 35. Two drinks of ours, he dropped from his average of 80 to 75. So he dropped a little bit. So
Mhm.
one drink will improve your HRV or your sleep scores. Two drinks tends to be neutral to water. And then three drinks or more, then it'll go down. It'll go
Yeah.
down from your baseline, but
Okay.
drastically different than regular alcohol.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think we did the
Yeah.
science of you know the R13 butane ultimately ending up into beta hydroxybutyrate, which some people report they feel a buzz, but then once the buzz wears off, they actually feel a little bit sharper, which we don't really talk about because that's really confusing to say in a 5 second Facebook ad. You'll feel a buzz, but then your brain is going to be sharper. We just have to keep it for the long form. But
You're like,
yeah,
hey, I was just
Yeah.
trying to chill out, man. I just want to like relax.
yeah. So you'll still be relaxed, but then your brain will be sharper. So I was on the
Yeah.
10th floor of a condo in Puerto Rico, and this guy's drinking, and he goes, I didn't know that he's lived there for 5 years. Said, I didn't know that that was a Chinese restaurant. His vision had gotten so much better that he was able to see that, shop that was, around the corner that he hadn't been able to see better. So his vision got better. So it's good for your brain. Your brain, there's benefits to ketones. It just happens to be that this side effect of the buzz means that you probably don't want to take it during the workday and you don't want to take it while driving for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Question about on the bottle, and you can kind of compare this to other alcohol alternative drinks, but it says not for SSRI or kratom, however you want to say it, users.
Yeah.
And kratom is like a big alcohol
Yeah,
alternative.
actually, I forgot my stream of consciousness was we were listing all the alcohol alternatives and then we got stuck up on ashwagandha
Oh,
and
right, we were talking
L-theanine.
about the mushrooms.
Right.
Sorry, I know we're all
Uh,
over the place.
But
So
so
excited.
we'll answer the SSRIs and then we'll go back to the alcohol alternatives. So the SSRIs,
Okay.
we give 100% money back guarantee. If you don't feel the buzz, we'll return it. And when people are returning, they take us up on that. They say, hey, we want to return it. I ask a series of 5 questions. Did you take it on an empty stomach? Because that really is key. You mentioned that. Empty stomach is really key. You take it with a meal, nothing. Maybe it'll block cravings. It might do that, but you're not going to get the buzz. So we ask them how many they took, empty stomach, do you take SSRIs, kratom? And then the responses kept on coming back, yes, to SSRIs and kratom like clockwork. We have since found that people that are on low dose SSRIs still feel the buzz, or people that have alcohol problems on SSRIs and they're okay with no buzz, but they want the blocking of the alcohol cravings benefit, then that's fine. But they just have to manage expectations. Don't come to me saying, hey, I'm on SSRIs and I didn't feel a buzz. It's like, well, I told you wouldn't. We don't know
Got
exactly
it.
why. It might have to do with some GABA receptors that kind of block the bind, with the SSRIs. We don't know how long you have to be off of it or reduce it in order for it to come back. But we have gotten reports of people with low dose loving the drink, absolutely loving it, and still feeling the buzz. And they said, "Oh, well, I'm on low dose." So now I'm like taking a tally in my head, like, hey, how low is low dose? Okay, worked for these people, didn't work for these people, to figure it out. So we just
Mm.
put on the can and on our like confirmation email, you just bought. P.S. Did you see our 3 other warnings about SSRIs? And I get emails all the time saying, I just ordered, got your confirmation emails, cancel my product because
Oh
it's just
wow.
not going to work.
Mm,
The
okay.
kratom a couple reasons for kratom. I think that also has to do with GABA receptors and binding, but that is an opiate alternative that is so strong that this is going to be chump change compared to that. So it either blocks the buzz, or you're so high on kratom that relatively you're like, this is nothing. This is this is worthless. So that's why we put that warning on
Got
there.
it.
It's more about not feeling the buzz than any negative interaction, and us not wanting to deal with all these returns and having to pay shipping both ways and stuff to save us some money. So
Yeah, that
that's
makes
that.
sense.
So the other alcohol alternatives, you got the functional high O's, just save money, just like the ketone salts, save money and just buy the L-theanine supplements, and it's noticeable. Keep in mind, 10% of the population, it has the opposite effect than making you relax. It makes you actually hyper. Not sure why. I know some people drink coffee if they have ADD, and it actually calms them. So it might be something like that, that it just has this opposite effect. So if you take those pills and you're bouncing off the wall, you know, you'll know why.
Yeah.
So then the
Okay.
next alcohol alternative is kava. It's been, it's got this great backstory of being this African root, and there's even kava bars, like I don't know, 100 kava
Hmm.
bars across America.
We
And
both
that's a
been.
fine alternative. It's
Yeah,
much better
I have
than,
one down the street. Yeah.
yeah, much better than alcohol. It's not going to do anything for your cravings and actually blocking that chemical addiction that you need. It's not going to do anything for that. But people do feel a subtle buzz, but it is very weak. And that stuff is known to taste like dirt, because it is dirt. It's just like this dirt
Yeah, it doesn't taste
powder.
I
great.
don't
The
like the taste.
the
Yeah.
FDA, yeah, the FDA has come out with some warnings about, liver toxicity, but I talked to a kava expert, and he's like, "Oh no, that's 10-year-old data. It's been proven." So I don't know if there's any, still liver potential issues with that, but it's pretty
Hmm.
weak. Tastes like dirt. Might be worth a try. That one's fine. The next one is this kratom thing. This kratom should not be in the classification of alcohol alternative. It should be in the classification of heroin alternative, opiate alternative. And
Hmm.
Right.
people are very defensive. You say anything negative about kratom online, and they jump on you because like, oh, it's not
Because
addictive.
they're
And it's like,
addicted.
well, or no, no. Each time I debate one of those people, it comes to find out that they themselves got off of heroin. I said, okay, if you're started with heroin, yes,
A lesser
this is why
evil.
the FDA hasn't banned it. You're probably wondering, if you haven't heard of kratom, why hasn't the FDA banned this? Because it's been an amazing tool to get people off of heroin, and people will
Mhm.
say it's their lifeline. But if you're not on heroin to begin with, it's a highly addictive substance. And I've gotten emails from people saying, "Hey, I wish I listened to your podcast where you were, anti-kratom, because I'm now up to 7 bottles of this thing called Feel Free, and I feel like an addict." And Feel Free, what do they put in the front? Kava. What do they put in the back? Kava and kratom, like in fine print. And the FDA rated them like $3 million FDA
Oh
raid.
yeah, they
And
got slammed.
these
And
kava
you're
bars,
supposed to have half a bottle. Half a bottle is one serving, and I
yeah,
have heard of these people that drink like 6, 7 bottles. That's insane.
yeah. So
Yeah.
and
Wow.
One bottle
it's
knocked me out. I didn't
I
know what it was. Years ago, I took it. I was like, I feel
I
terrible.
this one
Oof.
influencer that I know was saying, "Oh, this feels amazing. It feels like I'm high." And like, because you are, and it will come back to bite you as an influencer. You better watch out what you're promoting, because it's going to come back.
Mhm.
This is highly addictive stuff. So if you're on heroin, yeah, consider switching over to this. If you haven't
Might be
started,
better.
don't shop, but watch out, because on the Facebook ads, they hide what it is. I think one's now called like Pure Joy. It's like, it's kratom. And then here's the latest technique, which I bet you both haven't heard. And if you have, I'm very impressed. They now call it a different name, ketum.
No. How do you spell that?
Ketum, ketum. So ketum is just another name for the exact same molecule, kratom, but it doesn't get flagged by the Facebook ads and the different this and that. And they can talk about it being this, African root and stuff. It's kratom. Like, Google it. It's ketum is kratom. And it's a way to get around, these Facebook ads. It's the same thing. Don't get started on it. Um,
Because it's also illegal in a lot of states, right?
I don't even know. I know it's not on Amazon. It used to be on Amazon. It's not on Amazon anymore. I think it's legal in a lot of states. I didn't think anyone made it illegal, but maybe they went on the state by state basis as
I think
opposed
it's
to the
state by
nationwide.
state. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I get some like newsletter once a week of like updates on legal things, and kratom is always in there. Like New Jersey and Maryland right now are
Okay.
trying to ban it, and there's
Yeah.
always
Okay. Well,
movement.
I have mixed feelings about banning it because it really does help people with, opiate addiction. So
Yeah.
then the next alcohol alternative drinks now would be these THC or CBD drinks. I think CBD drinks, I don't know. I've never felt anything CBD, but if you do, great. That would be a great
I
option
do. I've felt
if you
something
feel
from those.
CBD. Great. But the THC drinks have a problem. So it's marketed as low calorie because if they also make it low sugar, it's only they can get it down to 15, 20 grams or 20 calories. But the problem with THC is the laundry list of kills brain cells. Um, it's not going to, well, some people it helps their sleep depending on how much you take. But it makes paranoia for many people. And then the worst part is it makes you hungry. So it makes you fat. THC makes you fat. And so you're drinking these drinks and you're like, oh, I really need that 800 calorie pizza. Thank God I had that, 15 calorie drink. There you go, and you eat that pizza. So
Yeah.
that doesn't work. And
Crazy.
the long-term use of THC is, not beneficial because it just demotivates you in life and just is a big downer. So you're really not left with anything that's solved the no alcohol and with the buzz, and that's where this drink like hits it. And then once you understand all those components and all those alternatives, price wise, it's just like, yeah, it's going to cost more when we're not making 2 million at a time. We're making 10,000 at a time every few weeks. Our production costs are going to cost exponentially more. Active ingredient costs 50 times more. So, it'll take a while for the price to come down, but it's never going to come down to all the way down to regular alcohol because it's government subsidized and just, super, super, cheap stuff, and it's harmful. But I think it does
Yeah.
cost you more money over time with just, all the problems of alcohol. We like to say that it's
Yeah.
our stuff is cheaper than rehab.
Yeah.
There you
Well,
go.
and all this new buzz and the New York Times article about them wanting to label alcohol as a carcinogen. This may be really helpful for business.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to get
Yeah.
the word out because something that's so new like this. We had this one guy who did a TikTok video and he compared it to the Star Trek. They invented this drink called synthahol, a synthetic alcohol. And Scotty's on the bar and he drinks some scotch and he spits it out. Like, what the hell is that? It's synthahol. It's like, bloody what? It's like, yeah, we invented this new alcohol that gives you the social lubricant, but then, no toxicity and you don't wake up like that's what we have. But even better, if our drink did what
That's
it
funny.
did without the ketone making, it'd be like Star Trek. But then this, on top of that, you get 1 to 2 millimolars of ketones, in your blood, uh, far surpasses that. And there have been other companies that have tried. There's a UK company that spent 10 to 20 million dollars trying to take the ethanol molecule and move it around and have some of the benefits without the harm. And they blew through all they weren't able to do exactly what we
Mm.
ultimately have, and they had to pivot to like some botanicals that maybe release GABA synergistically, but the feedback
Mm.
from most people is, they don't feel anything. But Renee,
Yeah.
you
Mm.
felt something, you felt a distinct buzz, whereas Lauren felt a mood improvement and maybe a relaxation, but not a buzz per se, right?
Well, in all honesty, I drink them after dinner,
Oh
not
yeah,
immediately after, probably like an hour after,
yeah,
but I haven't fully metabolized my food. There's still something in my GI, but I had it on New Year's Day because I was like, I'm not starting my year with alcohol.
yeah.
I do drink a little bit, but everyone else was drinking. We had a pig roast in our carport. So I was like full on pork and I had
Right,
one.
right.
This is not
Yeah.
I've
So
had them many times, but I have to do it purely on an empty stomach
yeah.
to notice it, I think.
Try 1 or 2. Sometimes I say, hey, if you don't feel it at 2, go to 3. And people say, well, 3 is really expensive. The 3 is just a one-time test for you to feel the buzz. And then once you
Meet
feel
the
the buzz, you're like,
threshold
oh, this
and
is
yeah.
real. And then
Mm.
you recognize it when you come back because people say, well, what type of buzz is it? And it's not really like an ethanol buzz. People have described it as a cross between ethanol and THC. So not the drunken bar stupering around and being aggressive that beer does, but then a little bit of the element of the relaxation, wanting to sit on the couch of weed, of the sativa side of weed. So it's different. So if you do take the 3 one time, then that kind of can tell you, oh, this is real. And then when you have the two, you're like, hey, I recognize it, and
Yeah.
moving forward, most
I
people
definitely
stick with
felt
one or two.
very social that day on New Year's Day, whereas alcohol immediately just like my energy goes like drops very quickly. It was euphoric. I was engaged, but didn't
Yeah.
keep me up. I slept great that night. And I just had one and I like definitely didn't want a snack. One
Did,
was
did you eat
filling enough.
less? Did you eat less? Like
Well, I
less of
like
the
had
what
filled
you?
up on the pork and then there's all these other snacks. I
Oh,
like
okay.
had no interest in any of the snacks. I
Okay.
don't know if that was just because of that. I'm not like
Yeah, it's
a snacker.
hard to tell, but many people
Yeah, a lot of
report.
variables there, but it's delicious. And I was very satisfied just drinking that one can. That was
So
like really good for me.
let's talk about the taste. So again, we have this 30 grams of sugar mocktails that we're competing against with no active ingredient. And we decided to make our stuff stevia based. One has allulose in it as well. And some people, like 10% of the population, stevia is like eating a mouthful of tinfoil. Like they just like for them, it's just this ball of metal. And we use the most expensive stevia. So there is different grades of stevia that have more of an aftertaste than others, and we have one that isn't. Um, but so if people hate stevia, we even put on the front of our page, like this is stevia based. They know that they hate stevia. They hate our drink. They take our drink, they take a sip, they're like, oh, this is disgusting. Um, while other people
That's
will, I mean,
helpful.
you've liked it. But we also decided to
Yeah.
sell just a raw version of
I've been
the drink.
holding this, waiting
Yeah.
for you to talk about
Yeah, it's
how
we
this
call it,
differs.
the Keto Hall raw concentrate, and we
Keto
put
Hall.
100% nasty. So the same amount of the Keto Hall that's in the 12-ounce drink, but we have to warn people because people will miss and click on things because it's, $5 cheaper. So we put in the title like nasty, like so when people return it saying, "Oh, this tasted nasty," which part of this
We
nasty
told
drink?
you.
Did you read the label?
Not only read the label, but in your
Your
cart
fault you
and
can't
the
read.
final email that came in. But we still refund people. That one is more for like bartenders or people that are inclined to make their own stuff, or stevia haters. If they hate stevia and they like sucralose, which I understand people hate sucralose, but if you don't like stevia, then it doesn't really work with just allulose and stuff like that. It's not strong enough. You really need a strong sweetener to overcome it, and the sucralose is the easiest. So most bars will just have sucralose, uh, pre-made sucralose drinks, and no one even ever asks, is there sucralose in there? It just all diet drinks at a bar are sucralose based.
Mhm.
Mm.
So you can make your own Paloma or whatever martini you want with uh, that. And then we
Okay.
then came out with
Cool.
a 2-ounce version that is flavored with uh, the ginger mule. This one is my favorite product that people don't know about because I can take this to a restaurant, to a bar, on an airplane, and I ask for and pay for a 12-ounce soda water, and then I put that in there, and it just instantly
Oh,
untouched.
Genius.
It's
That's so good.
the
yeah.
easiest thing. We're low on stock on that one, so we kind of bury it. And that's like the last product, but that one is, for traveling to, I'm going to the Bahamas. Yeah, you take a 12 pack of that in your carry on, and that is what you have instead.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Because sometimes, like, if I'm going out to a bar with friends, like, you want to have a drink in hand. And sometimes club soda and lime is just boring.
yeah,
But that
Mhm.
you could throw in your purse and take and just,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's what I did
so
for the
good.
Christmas.
So
That's
good.
what I did for the Christmas parties. And if you add a lime, it gives it an extra boost because we added as much lime as you can, but there's nothing like fresh lime. No matter what powder, freeze dried, we
Yeah.
tried 17 different types of lime, um, liquid, powders, different things. Nothing like a freshly squeezed lime. So you just add
Mhm.
that. You ask for 12 ounces, preferably. It might not work as well with 5 ounces. And then a squeeze of lime and put that in there, and it is, you know, wonderful,
Awesome.
super easy. Yeah.
Wow.
So the
Solving
whole
problems.
bottle, the
Yeah, the
whole
whole bottle.
bottle for 12 ounces of club soda. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to Florida and like tomorrow, I guess. Tomorrow. So I'm going to bring that. That'll be my mocktail.
Yeah, yeah. And
Fun.
send me your address. If you don't have that many, send me your address and I'll send it to the hotel where you're going in Florida so you can have, more of that.
Nice. Nice.
See me at Disney World drinking my
Cool.
Moscow mules, ginger mule. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
we
we
have a lot of options. So we got the concentrate, we got the flavored concentrate, and then we have the full drinks? Is there anything that we missed? And of
Well,
the full
the
drinks, we
whole
have the,
the
go
holy
ahead.
grail that we're working on is a beer. That's what we've always been working on, but it's just really hard because the way you make
Taste is hard.
non-alcoholic beers, you have super high carbs and you arrest the alcohol development. So you have 17 grams of carbs. Well, that won't work. Because we're not certain whether sugar will block some of the benefits of the drink. So that's why we've been zero
Mm,
carb. We'd have to do a lot of studying and testing, like because there might be some addictive nature to the sugar, which make you want to drink more of itself, or it might not block the alcohol because the alcohol craving is also a carbohydrate blood sugar thing. So we
yep.
don't put sugar in it. Other people, in their mix thing, they can try sugar and report back. But the beer is our ultimate. That's what was supposed to be our day one drink, but it's been 2 or 3 years now trying to
Mm.
make that. So we need to have something that's low carb and zero point 0.0 alcohol. It's just a really hard combo, but that's what we have currently. We're gonna stick with this stuff for a while. Now that we have the make your own drinks, someone said, "Oh, I wish you would make a Jack and Coke." Great, go make your own. So the
Yeah.
concentrate
Yeah,
also
that's
works.
so great.
The raw concentrate also works well in a like a diet soda. You can find stevia-based Zevia type drinks, but you also have to watch out for the caffeine. So a lot of these
Hmm.
diet sodas might have caffeine in them. So if you add that, you're going to get the multiplying effect of the caffeine still happens with the R13
Hmm.
ingredient. So this relaxation with caffeine being multiplied by 2x, it might not work. So you want to have a diet cola or a Virginia or a vanilla cream drink. Just make sure that it's also decaf, and you
Hmm.
can pour that into a pre-made 12-ounce drink that's on the thick side. It won't work with a LaCroix. It won't work with a well, some people love bitter. You can do a lime, but those people are really badasses. For the most part, you have to have a really thick diet soda, to pour it in. And then the bartenders, they make their own, concoctions with it. And we've got a couple bars that have started carrying it. It's kind of hard to explain on a one sentence menu that this is not alcoholic, but also not for pregnant women and not if you're going to be driving. The designated driver should not be drinking this. So it's kind of confusing to have it in a bar scene, but it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
starting to pick up because so many people want an alcohol alternative and they want a buzz. They don't want weed. They don't want drugs, and
Hmm.
there's nothing else
Yeah.
like this. It's like a whole new classification, a whole new category that I'm trying to, teach people about it.
Yeah. I would love to have
Yeah.
this in a bar. I have a friend that runs a bar and he hasn't done any of the alternatives because of that, like the regulation and just how to get that education across. And he doesn't want
Well,
to
the
be
regulation is
responsible.
easier. So this one bar lost their liquor license and they wanted to go all to my drink. I'm like, great, now we're going to have nationwide keto hall bars. It's actually easier for regulations purposes because they can sell sodas. So this is just like a soda for them.
Yeah. But making
Oh,
sure you have those disclaimers for pregnant
Right, right,
women
right.
and just,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
cool.
interesting. Oh man, we need this in Vegas so bad. Keto hall bars.
Well, our one of our warehouses is in Vegas. So we have one in Louisville, which is now under on ice, whatever. And
Oh,
then our other one is in Vegas. So when I send you stuff, it's next day for you. So that's good. Um, and
oh,
we do have a
yeah.
couple. So on the ketone ester side, we sell to a lot of uh, practitioners that are doing alternative, well, peptides and stuff like that. They do sell the ketone ester in their Vegas locations, and I need to get them to start, you know, carrying the hard ketones as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
It's a very cool library you have here. I'm a big
Yeah.
ketone fan, especially more after today. So
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you. Thank you
Yeah.
for your education.
Hopefully, it's
Cool.
becomes better known, and people aren't scared of it. Another thing people ask about is, oh, ketoacidosis, and that was an issue we had more 5 years ago coming out with the ketone ester.
Hmm.
Ketoacidosis is a diabetic state where your ketones are up and your body can't get rid of them.
Hmm.
Drinking ketones to make your ketones go up is not that same state. So some people might
Hmm.
go and ask their doctors
Right.
about hard ketones and they're like, ketones, oh, ketones are bad. They're still looking at their 1980 textbook on
Ah,
ketoacidosis. So it's really
Right.
uh, there. But
Hopefully
yeah,
that will
so
continue to
as far as other
change.
products,
Yeah.
we got the ketone ester we talked about. We did come out with a newer version of the ketone ester, which is um, this right here. We came out with like a $5 version because this bottle is like $30, which seems expensive, but people take one capful of the KE4.
Yeah, that'll
But
last a
then we
bit.
came out with like a $5 version, same price for the most part per gram, but it's just $5 worth, and people will take half a bottle for people that are sensitive, but a full bottle. And this one doesn't taste that bad. It doesn't taste like orange juice, but it's fine. The
Yeah, I don't think that one tastes
KE4
bad.
is, really, 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 really strong.
Yeah, yeah.
Ketones all
Nice.
day. I love
Yeah, I
it.
mean,
Yeah, I'm gonna go down and see what I still have in my fridge.
So for
Get
ketone
some more
esters, can
ketones.
you take too many? Like what is the recommended dose? With the one
yeah.
R13, of course, it makes sense. There's a
Well,
diminishing return, but
well, the R13, we say limit 2 cans per day, and that's based on FDA guidelines. And people get worried about that. And I said, well, if beer was invented today, there would be a 2 drink minimum. I mean, 2 drink maximum. Like that would be
yeah,
the recommended amount.
yeah.
So
Right.
it's kind of like that. We don't have the same protections as regular alcohol for people doing stupid things. As far as the ketone ester, yeah, you can take too much. And this one lady pushed the envelope. We used to say on the bottle maximum 3 per day because that was based on FDA generally recognized as safe guidelines. But this one lady, she was diabetic, on metformin, on a multi-day fast, taking $100 worth of ketone ester a day, trying to lose weight for a wedding. And yeah, she
Oh,
ended up in the hospital. So, she
Oh,
was fine.
jeez.
She was still fine, but she's, the maximum extreme case because metformin drops blood sugar, fasting, your
Yeah.
ketones are already high, and then you're stacking more and more on top of that. So yeah, you can take too much. So we instantly
yeah.
changed it to maximum 1 bottle per day unless you talk to your, doctor. And the Tour de France people, where money's no object, after the race, they'll down an entire bottle. And you can see
Mhm.
them taking it and they're cringing in their face. We actually have Mark Cavendish after one of his stages that was super hard. He couldn't find his ketones and he's just like freaking out. He's like, "Where's my ketones? Where's my ketones?" And they're like, "We lost it. Can't find it." Like, "Over there." And then he grabs it and he chugs it. It's like, you can't pay. It's better than like the end of a Super Bowl where they're like, "Where are you going to go?" "I'm going to go to Disney World." It was
Yeah.
better than that because he was like, some people say, "Oh, this is fake." Like he was, no, no, you can't pay him to freak out after a 5-hour race where he's dying for
Yeah,
his ketones, and
Yeah.
he
That's
chugs it.
yeah, that's
that's
But
priceless.
awesome.
most people will take $2 to $5 a day worth of the ketone ester. When money's no object, they take more. But
Okay.
yeah, yeah, you can take too much, but you can also take too much water. You can take too much of anything.
Right.
Sure.
Use some common sense
Yeah,
with all
Hmm.
of this. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Ah,
Cool.
amazing. Well, Frank, thank you for all the hard work you've put into this brand. Like you're always updating things and just the research is so amazing. The drinks are awesome. So we're super grateful for you and for sharing this with our audience.
Thanks, thanks. Hopefully
Um,
you guys can get this out fast enough so people are on their tail end of the dry January,
yeah.
or they can
Hey,
do
dry
February.
February or
Yeah,
Do
my husband does dry February because it's a shorter month, so we're in business.
that's cheating.
But I mean, technically, it should be dry 2025 because, like, there's no, except for the cost, but even the cost, when you really understand it and you're skipping dinners, you're skipping, you're skipping 10 drinks of beer and you're only having, 1 or 2 of ours, people are, losing weight because of the caloric restriction, because not because it burns fat for you, just because it makes you not eat dumb things after regular alcohol.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
it really does make alcohol obsolete. So if you can still have a buzz and
Yeah.
still function the next day, why go back to regular alcohol in February and March? Like just
Hmm.
switch over. So that's
Okay. I'm considering that.
Hmm.
Yeah. I like the idea.
yeah.
Well, Frank, before we let you go, can you share one final piece of advice for our audience, something they should start doing today to optimize their health?
Let's see. I should have had that ahead of time.
Oh no, it's
Um,
whatever comes to mind first, other than
uh,
drinking ketones.
I think the L-theanine. L-theanine is the only real thing on supplements. Like I've tried all supplements, don't feel anything. And I'll have a bottle of L-theanine in my car and and that stuff really works. And not many people know about it because it's a cheap commodity thing. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
not many people know about it. So L-theanine would be my hack. But right when we hang up, I'm sure I'm gonna text you like, "Oh, I forgot about these 5 other other
No,
things."
that's
But
great. I
It's
actually,
in the moment. That's all that matters.
yeah,
yeah. If I
L-theanine is
take
high on my
L-theanine
list.
with a cup of coffee, it's a game changer.
Right.
Like I like very steady,
But
clean
let's get
energy.
you off of that caffeine because caffeine is a stimulant and even it messes up people's sleep. They say, "Oh, well, I have to stop taking it because if I take it after 12, it messes up my sleep." Well, if you take it before 12, it's probably doing something to your sleep that you're just not recognizing. You're not able to track.
Hmm.
So if we can get
Mm,
you off of caffeine, and that's where the ketone ester comes in, and we've helped nurses that like have to take caffeine every 4 hours and be on this vicious loop, and then they can't go to sleep at night. You take the caffeine instead of the ketone ester, and I'm sorry, you take the ketone ester
ketone.
instead of the caffeine and help you take the 40 to 60 days to get off of caffeine. My theory with caffeine is that it worked 10 years ago the first time that you tried it, and then you've been chasing that feeling ever since. And what it does is it makes you wake up, instead of waking up at 100%, it makes you wake up at 80%. So you take the caffeine to get you back up to 90%. And people think that it gives them increased focus. It's not increased focus. It's the increase, where's my caffeine focus? And then when you get your drug, it then makes you, feel like you're more focused. No, you're just no longer thinking about the distraction of caffeine.
Yeah.
So the caffeine will take you down to 80%, and then you take it, brings you up to 90. But if you actually get off of it, and it takes you 40 to 60 days, it will then take you all the way up to 100%. You wake up after a couple months, you're like, hey, I'll just use caffeine for important podcasts like this. And you're like, wait a second, I don't need it. I'm sharp as a tack right now. So I'd encourage people,
Yeah.
you feel, oh, I like the ritual. Okay, great. Go ritual with, decaf,
Decaf.
get a Swiss, Swiss made, so it's less chemical or no chemical process to take out the caffeine. And that is on my wish list one day, is to have a decaf with ketone ester to help you get off of caffeine with ketone ester. And when people do this transition, they
Oh.
say, oh, I didn't feel the ketone ester. One lady wanted to return it. Talked to her on the phone for half an hour. Found out that she normally took 6 to 8 cups of coffee and she didn't feel the ketone ester, and she, went to zero caffeine. I'm like, okay. It took 30 minutes to figure out this caffeine variable. I said, what do you normally feel when you are off of caffeine? Oh, I'm irritable, brain fog, all these, withdrawal effects, headaches. I'm like, and you felt none of that. She's like, no. I'm like, ma'am, that's the best we're going to get you. We got you off of 6 cups of coffee, cold turkey with none of those side effects. And it just felt the same. Like it just, instead of a stimulant, the ketone ester brought you there. And then, over time, I told her she can take less and less and get off of the caffeine addiction. And then maybe the ketones will start having some benefit above that. But right now, you're just trying to get back to baseline. So consider
Right.
decaf for January, decaf, get off
Mm.
of,
Yeah. We did a caffeine
caffeine.
episode not that long ago, and I've been off caffeine since then. But I
And,
luckily had no withdrawal. I was totally
and
fine. But
you have to, well, that's good. You have to
my
also
body
watch.
doesn't miss it.
You have to watch
That's
out for these other,
amazing.
people that say that they don't feel caffeine. I love that. So if you didn't feel heroin, you still take heroin? No. If you don't feel it, it's not doing anything,
Yeah, I was
then
like, oh, it's not doing anything for
just
me.
take
Like,
decaf. Yeah.
yeah, I'm drinking
Yeah.
decaf because I like the ritual, but I'm like, oh, the caffeine was not, and it was hurting my, yeah.
And you have
Ugh.
to watch out for these new drinks that are claiming to be caffeine free, and they're just caffeine analogs, or like the breakdown of what caffeine turns into. They're still stimulants.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I'm not
Mm.
a fan of those drinks either. They're just,
yeah.
it's all marketing to say caffeine free energy. It's a it's a sexy
So
concept,
smooth.
but it's still a stimulant. What goes up
Yeah.
must come down. Where do you want to
Mm.
steal from the day? Do you want to make your sundowning effect at 3 or 4 p.m. worse?
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you, Frank.
That'll be the next goal. So,
Yes. Can
Frank,
you?
where should we send people? Yeah.
Yeah, so we have two websites, but they do cross link a little bit. So hardketones.com for the hard ketones, and then the Ketone Aid has its own website, ketoneaid.com, ketoneaid.com. And people do also cross, the two stores are kind of intermingled, so you can put them all into one cart. So it saves on, shipping or whatnot. I think we had a code for free shipping as well. I don't know if you guys still want to
Oh, great.
put that
Yeah.
up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I think it was Biohacker Babes. Can we
Okay,
still
yeah. If not,
do
I'll make
that?
sure that works.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. All
Yeah.
All
right.
right.
Yeah. We'll
Um,
link to that in the show notes for everybody so you can go stack up.
yeah, and if you get on the subscription, we make it super easy. You get a text message, hey, do you want to re-up your subscription? Yes or no. And even if we accidentally send you something, you let us know and we'll take it back. The subscription knocks off another 10 to 15%
Cool.
as
Great.
well. So
Awesome.
just all these
Thank you so
different
much.
stacking discounts make it go down to like, $4 or $5 a can.
Cool.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
All right.
Wonderful.
Thank you
All
so much,
right.
Frank. It was awesome to finally have you on and chat with you. This is super
Thank you
fun.
so much. I'm
I'm a
excited.
ketone junkie now.
Great. And thanks to everyone that tuned in. We will see you next time.